Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my first impressions review of Moon Knight, the new MCU series on Disney Plus. So I literally just finished watching the first episode as I'm recording this, and I went into this with a completely different view than I did with the Loki series or Falcon and Winter Soldier or What If, because with those series it's like I kind of knew what to expect. What If, obviously, not entirely, but I knew the characters, I knew the kind of ideas they were going for. I understood like what to kind of expect from those series, and although they did kind of throw me for a loop in a couple ways, I wasn't like super surprised by most of it. Again, What If kind of notwithstanding. You can also throw WandaVision in there. I didn't mention that, but that can be thrown in there as well. There wasn't a lot of surprises. This one I went into differently because I don't know a lot about Moon Knight. There's only a few things that I knew going into this. One, I knew that Moon Knight as a character is a lot more excessively violent than other characters and other stories within the Marvel Universe. Two, I did know going into this about the dissociative identity disorder. I didn't know all the details about it, but I did know it was a thing. And three, I knew it had something to do with Egyptology, Egyptian mythologies, and the study of Egyptian history and whatnot, that kind of stuff. I knew that was involved. And yeah, everything I did know about this proved to be right. But going into this not knowing much of anything else, I think really helped. Because I feel like not knowing much allowed me to experience this fresh and feel very, how do I put it? Drawn in by what was going on. It allowed me to really connect with and grasp the ideas and stories and the characters that we were beginning to meet in this episode. Um, I think it really did a good job at hooking you in and delivering, honestly, a great mystery, because that's what this first episode really like hangs on. It hangs on a mystery. What is happening? Why is it happening? There's a lot of questions that you are progressively trying to solve as you watch. You're looking out for little clues, little hints, little bits of information that can lead to explaining exactly what's going on. Obviously, one of the big mysteries is in relation to the dissociative identity disorder, mind you. So again, that one didn't. I did already know about that, so that one I already knew what was going on with. But there was a lot that I didn't, and a lot that is not really clicking with me even now entirely, that I'm still kind of left in the dark about. And that's good. That's a very good thing. Um, so before we continue on, though, I do want to just say that I will be going into spoilers. I will be talking about the events that take place in this episode, and I will be talking about stuff that would be seen as notable spoilers for what happens. So, yeah, if you have not seen the first episode of Moon Knight yet, I would suggest you check it out, not only just to, watch this review, but honestly, just a non spoiler viewpoint here. This was a damn good first episode. So I suggest you just check it out just because of that. Um, but we are going to be getting into spoilers to explain why I liked this so much and what the episode actually was about and what it showed. So, this is your spoiler warning. We will begin with that side of things in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so I took a lot of notes while watching this. Like, when doing these first impression reviews, especially for the Marvel shows I do, um, I tend to take notes to like gather my thoughts and everything. And I took a lot because I was like kind of just jotting down pretty much everything that happened from the beginning of the episode to the end. Um, because I didn't want to forget anything. And I'm probably not going to talk about it here. I'm not going to go little bit by bit on every little thing I noted down because that would just take forever. I'm just going to go through the basic premise of the episode and talk about maybe some specific moments that stood out to me, as well as just, what I think. So the episode focuses on this character named Steven, played by Oscar Isaac. That's his name, right? God, you guys know at this point that I'm terrible with remembering names. So let me just make sure here. For those of you who are new, who are checking out because of this review, I'm terrible at memorizing names. Oscar Isaac, yes. He was in Star Wars, among other things. I think he was in the new Dune movie. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Um, but yeah, so Oscar Isaac plays Steven, this mild-mannered museum worker. He works stock and whatnot at the museum. He seems to want to be a tour guide because he knows a lot about Egyptology. He knows a lot about ancient Egypt and the mythologies and just the histories about it all. And going into this and seeing all of that, seeing him kind of like leading this little girl on and telling her about all the stuff in the museum and everything, it's like I got a kick out of that because growing up I was very into Egyptian history and mythology. And mind you, I don't remember everything. There's a lot that I don't remember. Like there's a goddess, an Egyptian goddess mentioned in this episode I'll get to in a bit, but I didn't remember that one. I remember a lot of the Egyptian pantheon, but not all of them. And this one that's mentioned by name and everything in this episode, which again I'll get to in a bit, I did not remember. So he's kind of mild-mannered, though he's very nice, very kind, but kind of out of it. Like, you see that person who's just not all there, and that what seems to be the case with him. We see he's just kind of going through life, and he seems to have these issues, because when he wakes up in his bed every morning, he's strapped down by his ankle. There's tape on the door, obviously a trap to see if the door is opened. There's sand at the foot of his bed, and it's like, okay, it's made abundantly clear that this guy sleepwalks, because he talks about having, about waking up in random places and not knowing how he got there and everything. So it's made to look like he sleepwalks or something like that. But again, as I mentioned, I already knew about the dissociative identity disorder. So there's that. But he goes throughout life and things are weird at points. Like there's this woman who apparently he's going on a date with and did not realize. He doesn't even seem to know who she is. And then at one point he wakes up outside of this mountain village. And the people of the village are chasing him and trying to shoot him, and he ends up losing himself in a crowd, but ends up finding out this village is home to a creepy religious cult led by the charismatic cult leader, Ethan Hawke. I don't think we got his name in the episode, so I'm just calling him Ethan Hawke. Actually, maybe it said his name and I just missed it. It might have said his name. Because there was a point where some of his followers were talking to him and he might have said his name there, now that I think about it. But I think I missed what it was and I didn't want to go back to it. That might be the case. But either way, I'm just going to call him the creepy cult leader, or I'm going to call him by Ethan Hawke. But we see he's performing this ritual with some of his people where he uses his cane to seemingly do this ritual where the scale tattoo on his right above his wrist seems to measure the sins of the people. The first person who goes up is clean. They're all good. Everything's fine. The second person who goes up, which is this elderly woman, though, is believed to be bad. She claims she's good, and he says that I believe you. I believe you believe that, but the scales can talk about the future too. And then he kills her. Just mercilessly kills this old lady because apparently she's going to do something bad in the future. The guys with the guns come up to him, tell him what's going on. He ends up basically singling out Stephen by just commanding his followers with different language and everything, which obviously Stephen doesn't know and didn't realize what was going on. And the cult leader asks him to return this scarab artifact, which he tries to do. But the voice in his head that we are hearing throughout this episode seems to take control of his body and will not let him return it. He has these moments where he ends up falling asleep, and when he wakes up, he's covered in blood and there's bodies around him. He ends up stealing a cupcake truck and goes on this car chase, and again, he keeps falling asleep, keeps waking up to more and more intense shit going on. And eventually he does wake up back in his own apartment, thinking it's a dream and everything. But he ends up realizing a few things after he wakes up. One, his goldfish, which normally had one fin, now has two, and he's really confused about that. Two, he finds out he's lost a couple days when he supposedly tries to go on this date that he had set up, and finds out that he's 2 days too late. That it's not Friday, it's Sunday. And so he's kind of freaking out, just trying to figure out what's going on. And he ends up finding a burner phone and a key stashed in his apartment. The number calls... there's a number that's repeated on the phone for this Layla person. She ends up calling, but when she calls him Mark. And when he starts to show confusion and everything over this, she hangs up. So it's again very clear by this point, because again, knowing of the dissociative identity disorder, that Mark is the other identity within his body. And that obviously when he's going to sleep and then waking up in different places, it's because Mark has taken control. So it's clear that this is what's going on. Just again, because I knew about that. If you didn't know about the dissociative identity disorder, about this series, then you probably wouldn't understand exactly what's going on, but you could probably figure it out. Especially if you know about the disorder to any real degree. He ends up hearing the voice more and more. His reflection starts speaking to him and acting independently of his body. And he starts seeing this figure around, this giant figure with this beaked skull. Obviously an Egyptian deity. Like, no shit. That's pretty obvious. The cult leader ends up following him to the museum and starts to explain stuff, that there's this Egyptian deity named Amet, who he and his cult worship. Amet is described by Stephen as the world's first boogeyman, basically this mythological legend of someone who would come and get you if you're bad. And the idea is that Amet, she would punish sinners, but before they died. Like, wouldn't wait for them to die for them to receive their punishment. She would come after them while they're still alive and having committed those sins. And the scarab apparently belongs to her. So yeah, Ammit, as I mentioned, was not an Egyptian deity that I remembered. I might have learned about her back in my youth when I was, again, into that kind of stuff, but I just didn't remember her. I remember seeing, like, in various places, an Egyptian deity with, like, the crocodile head, which seems to be what it was going for with her. Um, so I think I've seen her, and I've probably learned about her, but I just didn't, like, know her or remember. um, but the cult leader explains that Amit could have been able to stop the likes of Hitler and other just horrible evils within the world, but herself was stopped by the other gods and her own avatar. And this part was really funny because, in response to hearing the word Avatar, Steven references both the live action Avatar movie, which, with the blue people and everything, James Cameron, and he also references the animated series, Avatar The Last Airbender. Although he refers to it as an anime. And that irritates me because it's not an anime. It's anime inspired, but it's a completely Western animation. It is not anime. It is a cartoon. There is a difference. I I will stand by that. I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, it's funny that he referenced both of those though. That's really just a funny little nod there. Um, the cult leader uses his scale trick with his cane on the on Stephen, and it ends up giving him a result he's never experienced before. So he doesn't really know what to do, and ends up letting Stephen go. That night, the cult leader seems to come after Stephen again, with this time with some dogs in tow, some creepy, demonic, um, probably connected to Anubis dogs. um, and yeah, he tells Stephen on the intercom, it's like, you can stop this, just give me what I want. um, Stephen ends up getting chased by the dogs, and that's when Mark has to come to his rescue. Mark speaks to him through the reflection, tells him, like, let me take control. I can handle this. And Stephen's at first refusing, but eventually gives in, and we finally actually get to see Mark in control as he becomes the Moon Knight and takes out the dogs. And then the episode just ends. It just ends right there. It's really interesting. Again, the mystery surrounding it all, the acting from Oscar Isaac and the others, Ethan Hawke and everyone, really good. I like the idea of bringing in like a cult like thing to this, because it's like, this is really something that is fascinating to kind of go into, to kind of think about. So showing it in this MCU series is fascinating to me. Ethan Hawke is great as the cult leader. He's delightfully creepy, and he has this charismatic air to him where it's like, you can understand why these people are following him, but at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, this is so blatantly a cult, it's not funny. And Oscar Isaac is great as Steven, seeming like this everyday kind of goober, just a normal dude, pretty mild mannered and everything. Seems like a nice guy, but apparently there's the other personality within him, Mark, who is apparently very violent and very everything that Steven is not. He's aggressive, he's strong, he's confident. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see this at play. I'm wondering exactly how it's going to go in regards to that. I'm also wondering which is the original personality. Is Steven or is Mark the original? Or is there another personality we don't know about? I doubt we're going to obviously get as many as with Jane in Doom Patrol. But I'm wondering if like there could be another personality, the original personality that's maybe buried deep down there. um, and that neither Mark or Steven are the original. I'm curious about that. You know, um, I again, I love the stuff about the Egyptology and mythologies and stuff within this. It was really interesting and fascinating. I've always been kind of into that, so it's great to see here. Um, I don't see how this is going to connect to the MCU yet, to the rest of the MCU. It supposedly is, from what I've heard. It is going to connect to the MCU, to the wider MCU, I should say, but I just don't know how yet. It seems very isolated, but again, not in a bad way or anything. It's just it's really good, but I'm just wondering how it is going to eventually connect. I believe this is only 6 episodes long, which really sucks. I really wish a lot of these streaming shows lasted longer because it's like 6 episodes is nothing. Like even when it's double length and basically like if you had it like regular length episodes, it would equate to 12. It's like it's still that's very little. Like you could at least up it to 10. Maybe it's just because I believe Miss Marvel is going to have 6 episodes too, and I really wish that had more. Just because I'm really excited about Miss Marvel. And that one I'm actually going to be reacting to instead of just doing one of these first impression reviews for. Um, but yeah, maybe it's because of that. But I just kind of wish these shows did more than just having these few episodes. It just feels like there's so much more they could incorporate if they had a bigger order. Um, but that seems to be a new thing. That seems to be like the big thing with streaming shows these days. A lot of them get shorter episode counts like this. I just wish they didn't, you know. Like, why can't we have one with 24 episodes? Huh? But yeah, in all seriousness, um, it's interesting too. One thing I noted while watching, when Mark or Steven would wake up in his bed after whatever happened with Mark, the tape would still be there. The sand would still be undisturbed. His ankle bracelet would still be on, which means that Mark is clearly restoring all of that. Mark is putting the tape back. Mark is fixing the sand. He's putting the ankle bracelet on before he lies back into the bed. It's made pretty clear that Mark understands what's happening. Steven doesn't. And I think that's why throughout the episode you hear this other voice, which I guess probably belongs to the Egyptian deity with the bone beak and everything. This other voice keeps referring to Steven as the dumb one because he is unaware of what's going on, and he's not making the best decisions when he's in a panic. So there's that as well. There's also this scene that was in the trailer I saw, where he's where he's freaking out in an elevator because everything's like all the lights are flashing and everything, and he sees the bone beak guy. This old woman ends up coming into the elevator with him, and she's really freaked out by his actions. He seems really just uncomfortably just whacking out and everything. And she ends up getting off on the wrong floor and just trying to knock on this stranger's door to get help and everything. It's like, Jesus. I mean, I feel for the lady. Like, she's probably scared out of her mind. This dude is, like, just wigging out. So, yeah. I don't necessarily blame her. The designs of the more supernatural stuff we've seen in this, the Bone Beak guy, the dogs, and even the Moon Knight costume, all the designs are really good. The Moon Knight costume is one that I was worried about because I've known what Moon Knight looked like, and I was worried that the costume would look cheesy. Because obviously with live action movies and whatnot, they've had to change costumes before to make them look less cheesy. Fortunately, they made it work. It looks good. So I can be happy about that. Um, but yeah, all in all, this was a very, very good first episode. It was. It hooked me in and it kept my attention the entire time. It was well acted, well written, well paced, and kept that mystery front and center. Again, there's stuff that I still haven't quite figured out. There's characters we don't know. Is he, when he's talking on the phone, he's talking on this phone to someone and says later Gators every time he hangs up with them. Is he actually talking to someone there? And if so, who? There's a lot of questions that are still hanging in the air. And I like that because we're going to be figuring things out along with Steven in this. Um, so I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. I'm definitely interested to see where they take this and how this battle between our hero Steven slash Mark, the Moon Knight, and our creepy cult leader goes. I'm excited to see how all of that ends up going down. And will the creepy cult leader, will Ethan Hawke end up getting some kind of superpowers as well, besides, just the scales? I'm curious about that too. So a lot of questions still hanging in the air, but a very, very good start. In fact, this I would probably say is the best start of all the Disney Plus MCU shows. Way better than WandaVision's first episode, way better than Loki's, even better than What If's. And I haven't seen Hawkeye, so can't say about that, but I'm not really interested, so. Because I don't like the character. Or the actor who plays him. Because he's kind of terrible in a lot of ways. But yeah, not going to get into that here. But yeah, this was definitely the best first episode of these MCU shows so far. I don't know if Miss Marvel will top it, or She-Hulk in the future, or Armor Wars, or any of these other ones coming, but we'll see. I'm excited nonetheless. Tell me your thoughts down below on the first episode of Moon Knight. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.